Please proceed to file the divorce decree." He unexpectedly said, "I don't need the kids," and walked out of the house, leaving our newborn daughter and our 3-year-old twins behind. Even before this, I had a sneaking sense that my husband was unfaithful to me, but I had come to terms with it because of the responsibilities of work and raising a family. I can't stand it anymore. My twin girls looked up at me worriedly as they clung to me at that very moment. It was, "Mommy, I love you." Something inside me snapped, despite my intense rage toward my spouse. I signed the divorce papers without thinking, saying, "Well, fine then, let's submit them." A cunning smile crossed my lips. It's going to be him, not me, who gets into trouble. He started his ascent down the stairway to hell without realizing how much I had helped him during the years. "I'll be late coming home today, too." To what extent have I heard these terms before? I'm 34-year-old Maya. My spouse and I were married 4 years ago, and although he is 2 years younger than me, I ended up indulging him at first. We had twin girls the next year, and our third daughter 3 years later. My spouse started arriving home quite late around the time of the birth of our third daughter. "I want the third child to be a boy," he stated. "I want to play catch with him in my fantasy." It's interesting to note that while he was happy to be pregnant, his perspective completely shifted upon learning that the child was a girl. My spouse scowled when he saw the newborn daughter's face at the hospital. "She's not my appearance. She lacks cuteness." I was filled with great fury the instant I heard those words. Saying something about your own child is absurd. Why would you say something like that at all? Maybe in the back of my mind, I was already thinking about getting a divorce at that point. His gloomy disposition remained after I was released from the hospital and went back home. My spouse didn't really assist with childcare as my maternity leave was coming to a close. I begged, "Show some interest in the kids." "If you're short-handed, just hire a babysitter," was his reply. "You've got savings." Compared to other women my age, I was making significantly more money from my position at a prestigious corporation. My spouse, however, struggled to hold down a job and moved occupations regularly. Maybe he was jealous of a woman who made a good living. I was concerned about how long it would endure because he was working on a temporary basis at the time. I thought he would at least play the part of father at home because I couldn't expect financial assistance. However, he complained that it was a bother when I requested him to spend time with the children. His grudging assistance was tempered, and our girls appeared disinterested. It troubled my spouse to realize that he wasn't popular. This vicious cycle persisted until one day he completely ceased lending a hand with kid care. "I'm tired from work. Let me rest." He would spend his weekends either hanging out in his room or going out with someone else. Despite the fact that it was the weekend, I had to work today. "If you don't look after our children, I will get into problems. I'm planning to go out too." He would not monitor the children. I was unable to leave the kids alone, so I frequently had to make last-minute babysitter requests. This situation will ruin our marriage and affect the kids, I thought. That's why I chose to speak with my folks. But my in-laws responded in a way that disappointed me. A wife has to put up with it. That's the essential element. More significantly, will you kindly attend to the matter I mentioned earlier? My parents didn't get to see me very much because they lived far away. I didn't know who to turn to and didn't feel comfortable making phone calls. "Hey, make me some food." One evening, I came home to find my husband in his pajamas and a disorganized room. The only consolation was that the children, who had been playing with toys and appeared bored, burst into wide smiles at the sight of me. "Where were you until this late?" "I had some business at your parents' house." "Go quickly and prepare dinner. I'm going hungry." "If you've been home all this time, couldn't you have done the laundry or cleaned the bathroom?" I inquired. But when my husband heard this, he grinned for no apparent reason. "I've decided not to do anything for people who lack manners." "What do you mean?" I inquired. "I cleaned the bathroom yesterday, and there was no gratitude." "Didn't I say thank you?" "Not that thankfulness. I refer to a stipend, $200 minimum." He held out his right hand, making a money gesture. What is this man talking about? I pondered. Weary and angry that day, I asked him to go to the restroom so the kids wouldn't hear us talk. I take care of the kids, the house, and my job. Have you ever failed to thank me? It's a wife's duty. So what are you supposed to do? I am employed as well. He boldly made such expectations, even though he didn't do any household chores and only made $1,000 a month. We argued for about an hour throughout that time. Mommy, I'm hungry, my daughter interrupted, bringing me back to the present. I quickly made dinner despite my husband's ill-tempered departure. I learned his secret in the tight environment. My spouse was in a relationship. My college acquaintance, who had also divorced because of her husband's adultery, was my coworker, to whom I confided. You need to start gathering evidence right now, she said. She offered many strategies for gathering evidence. To be honest, I had long suspected that my husband was having an affair. I smelled him just before our youngest was born, and it smelled strangely pleasant. Were you wearing perfume? I asked him in passing when he got back home. He started to perspire and stumbled. There were other indicators as well, such as lack of closeness, diminished talks, tardiness in returning, and attitude toward the children. However, I was convinced after a certain occurrence. Lip balm was found in your jacket pocket. I own it. My lips get dry and cracked. Are you using Chanel's pink lip balm? Well, that's, maybe my mom's. His clumsy reply seemed like a fabrication. I spotted it as he hurried to the restroom and unbuttoned his shirt. What's that? It was quite clear. There was a love bite in a place that was normally covered by clothes. I was about to approach him when I realized I needed proof. I said, "Take your time warming up in the bathtub," grinning and pretending not to notice. When I got home late from work the next day, I discovered my girls had already fallen asleep. With the exception of my spouse standing there with a piece of paper under the dining room light, the room was silent. Enough is enough for me. Let us file for divorce. Put the divorce paperwork in order. The kids are not what I desire. He handed me the papers and walked out before I could say anything. Mommy? The twins, who appeared concerned, awakened up at the sound of the door closing. That's all right. I apologized for waking you up, but things were definitely not going well. He claims to have had enough. Here's my line. And he's against the kids? Why is it the case? Tears came easily, and my head was full with emotions, but I was unaware of them. Mommy, I love you. Sense that anything was off, my girls gave me a strong hug. It was then that I felt clear again. This was not going to go on. This was too much to ask of my little girls. I would be happy if it were just myself and my children. At last, I understood what I ought to have done right away. Well, fine. Let's file the papers. I stated this with a determined face, and my girls grinned back. We slept well together that night. I filed the divorce papers first thing the next morning and called someone. Yes, go ahead. My spouse will be facing difficulties. I told my experience, and the person on the other end did something. I had thought about this for a long time. Even if it meant his life would come to an end, I would stop my spouse from doing anything if he betrayed me. I didn't feel guilty. Maya, where were you? 3 days thereafter. My spouse and parents-in-law were waiting for me when I got home from work. My mother-in-law was wearing a furious look. My spouse appeared oblivious to the circumstances, and my father-in-law was pallid. Did you stand outside the main entrance the entire time? You know, it's terrifying. It's not the time for that. What's happening? She shoved me with a letter. A lawyer's notice. As you read it, everything becomes clear. Her voice became louder, and her face went redder than a tomato. I have to pick up the girls, so excuse me. Disregarding them, I went inside. My enraged in-laws followed me into the living room and demanded that we talk about it. Why did you send this all of a sudden? The significance is unknown to us. You'll understand when you read the letter. Using a lawyer is cowardly. They quickly reversed the situation, even though they had acted improperly. I wondered how to explain, feeling confused and frustrated. At last, my bumbling spouse said something. "Is this about being dissatisfied with the divorce and filing a complaint?" My in-laws looked at him, utterly perplexed. Of course, he didn't know what I had done for them all these years. A divorce was never mentioned to us. Does that explain why this occurred? Our son is utterly useless. Why is there such a rush? You have destroyed everything. Wait a minute, what's going on? My mother-in-law smashed the table when their discussion stalled. Why did you divorce Maya? Well, I intervened since my spouse was taken aback and found it difficult to react. Because he completely neglected his duties as a husband and father. You know how you always say that males are like that? Would you then accept your father-in-law's infidelity? What? She was obviously taken aback to learn of her son's adultery. My husband opened his mouth, but I cut him off with a sharp glance. My father-in-law suddenly began to defend his son. A man's relationship is only a game. It's not an issue. It is useless to quarrel. Kindly depart. All future correspondence will be handled by my attorney. Why consult a lawyer right now? Will you consent to the divorce, please? My spouse appeared perplexed. Not only will I agree, but I've already submitted the divorce papers. What? So why? My mother-in-law started crying as my husband and I got into a fight. How am I supposed to pay you $39,500 in one go? Why such a large amount? Who are you paying? At last, the time came. I proudly shared my secret. Not long after our marriage 4 years ago, my mother-in-law begged to speak. I need to discuss something. Uneasy, I accepted the offer, believing I would go to any lengths for my new mother-in-law. Her plea, however, was unexpected. Can you lend me $40,000? It was shocking to me when she revealed it to me. I was taken aback when my mother-in-law inquired about my annual salary without hesitation. I was unable to bear the pressure. Startled, I blurted out, maybe over $165,000 as my yearly income. Her eyes gleamed. It seems that my father-in-law developed an addiction to horse racing, wasting money everywhere he went, and finally running into debt. She pleaded with me that she wanted the money back badly, and I was unable to say no. I said it over and over. You have to pay me back. I lent the money after that. After 4 years, she had only paid back $2,600. Occasionally, she would give back the money just to take it out again. I employed a lawyer and wanted the remaining $39,500 after realizing I would never get the entire sum back. The look of disbelief on my husband's face almost made me chuckle. I committed to paying it back over time. Why ask for everything at once? We're no longer family, so I don't need to be considerate. My mother-in-law then let forth a noise resembling the shriek of a chimpanzee. She threw her rage at my husband and exploded. Your affair is what started this. Instead of paying me, pay up. Why me? We've retired. It's beyond our pension. Pay attention to me if you wish to move into my home. She could not, of course, pay the $39,500 in full at once. Ultimately, my spouse wasn't working at the moment. I'm going to live at Rachel's house, so I won't pay. Is that the name of the woman you're having an affair with? I could take no more of this mother-son squabble. I made the decision to stop it. Achievement is not limited to $39,500. As reparation, I'm going to seek $113,000 from you and your mistress. Of course, child support is another issue. What? It makes sense. It's the penalty for ignoring your children and acting ostentatious. Where's the proof that I cheated? Have you already forgotten that you loudly declared that you were going to live at your mistress Rachel's house? With a sigh, I gave him the several proof pictures I had printed off for this occasion. I was sick to my stomach when I saw them. My spouse shared pictures of himself cuddling and kissing his lover on social media. I presented it to my lawyer as well, of course, and it was damning. Why do you have something like this? I did an internet search and came across your social media. It's terrible that you believed it would not be discovered. My naive husband had been uploading careless images and had left his settings open for anybody to view. He must not have realized the risks associated with using social media. The fact that my technologically illiterate spouse was engaging in such behavior was unexpected, but it also made it easier for me to compile proof of his adultery. This also astounded my parents-in-law, who just gazed at him, jaw wide open. All good. Now please head home. It's time to head to the childcare facility. At the very least, refrain from asking Rachel for payment. How would I respond if she absconds? I don't care about that. I ejected the trio with force, since things were not getting better. Leap inside. Assist me. I had no knowledge of the loan. I could hear my husband screaming through the door for a long time. I'm going to report you to the police. I screamed that, and they departed in sorrow. It has been a year since then. Upon receiving payment from me, the mistress vanished. My ex-husband was therefore ordered repeatedly to pay the $39,500 and was forced to reside at his parents' house. It also appears that he borrowed money from an untrustworthy dealer. I was able to get it back immediately, but there's also the $113,000 child support payment and the $11,000 in compensation for the affair. He now appears to be working from dawn till dusk to earn his daily income by performing manual labor. Even if he lives out the rest of his days, he could never be able to pay back the loan due to the increasing interest. Honestly, that doesn't really concern me. Mommy, hurry up, or we'll be late. I'm heading to the childcare facility as my girls are calling. The fact that everyone is maturing so quickly makes